Hey, so recently I announced a change to my channel and said I'm going to start doing some videos kind of analyzing Expedition 33. That's still in the works. Hopefully, actually, the first round of videos for that will be done in a few days. But I kind of just wanted to jump in and make sort of an emergency video because of what happened last week. And what happened last week was massive layoffs. I think something like 9,000 people were laid off in the games industry, and that comes after about 2.5 years of endless rounds of layoffs. And I've seen a lot of people be affected by it. A lot of people close to me have been laid off, so a lot of people are going through it. And I wrote a Substack post about it. If you've read my Substack post about layoffs, then you don't have to watch this video because it is honestly a retelling of the points in that post. Before games, I worked in film. And in film, you would just get hired per project. You would sign what's called a run of picture contract, which meant the picture had hired you, you were under contract at Warner Brothers or Disney or Universal or wherever, and until they decided they didn't need you anymore. And you might say, well, if you were hired on a contract basis or short term, then then that's different from getting laid off from a job where you thought you'd be employed regularly here. And sure, there's differences, but the mental aspect of it is pretty spot on. It's you have a job and a future and money, and then one day you don't. So I have learned a lot about dealing with layoffs. So I kind of just wanted to share what I know in case it helps anyone, or creates any food for thought, or even for discussion. If someone wants to share other insights or ideas, absolutely, it could be useful for people to hear lots of different points of view. So this is not a video about like how to find your next job, or and I'm certainly not a financial advisor. It's nothing about your finances. I do mention finances in here, but it's not to give you financial advice. What this video is about is just about how to protect yourself mentally during the layoff, because you're going through something bad. If you were laid off, you're going through a bad thing, for sure. There are steps that you can take today, right now, to make it significantly worse. And there's steps you can do to make it less bad. And most people, if they haven't been through it a few times and learned all the hard lessons, they almost always take the steps to make it worse. And you have enough problems on your plate, so don't make it worse. Okay, so I'm just gonna share, in no particular order, some things that I've learned that are kind of important. First, take a deep breath. You will survive this. You will get through this. You will emerge from this experience. Now you might wonder, well, Brian, you don't know who's watching this. How can you say all that? So the fact is that I don't know whether you will find another job in a week and then this will have been some little speed bump, or if you'll struggle for a long time, and then maybe even make a major change in your life and go to a different industry or do something. But I can tell you that you will survive this, and I do know this about you. I know this because you, at some point, got into the games industry. Or if you've been laid off from another competitive industry like games, then this applies to you as well. You work in an industry, you have worked in an industry where there are thousands, literally thousands of people who've thought about getting into it, who've kind of daydreamed about getting into it, and then never took any concrete steps to do it. Went down another path. And no shade on those people either, but I'm just saying you thought about it, and then you went out and you did it and you made it happen. And that tells me that you have some level of scrap in you, some kind of fight and determination, and honestly, some level of survivorship. Is that the right way to say it? That you are a survivor. So I don't know how you'll get through it. I don't know what will happen in all the particulars, but I know that you will figure it out and you will survive. So just take a deep breath and know that the road ahead might be hard, but you will walk down that road and you will survive. The second thing, give yourself some time. Some people think immediately like, oh, I've been laid off. Okay, I need to organize 15 different job applications by 8 a.m. tomorrow, whatever. And if that is your mindset and your inclination, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're like most people, including me, you probably need a little time to process, right? You need to just give yourself a couple days to mourn the job that you lost, the plans that you had that are now won't happen or are delayed. And that's just normal. That's just human, and you need that time. But what will undermine that processing, what will undermine that time that you need, is if while you're processing, you're also beating yourself up. And you're like, I'm a piece of and just lying around on the couch and, wallowing in self-pity and like, I should be out there. Like, but I can't, right? Because this thing, if you need the time to process, you won't be able to do that. So you'll just be processing and then undermining the processing by beating yourself up. So what about just don't do the part where you beat yourself up and just give yourself a little time, right? Just it might be a few days. The one danger is, of course, that you want to make sure that giving yourself some time doesn't turn into a month of not doing anything. So it's different for everyone. I kind of arbitrarily decided a long time ago, like, give myself a few days, but like not more than a week. If a week goes by and I'm like just want to watch daytime television or doom scroll or something, then I'm like, okay, you need to actually get off your butt. But you that part you'll have to keep an eye on. But don't beat yourself up for just needing a little time to reel, just be reeling and like it's okay. The next one is just to know that it's not your fault. I know you know this, and you're like, I don't need anyone to tell me this, but it's not your fault. The fact is that most of us, no matter how much we know that, there's some little part of us that thinks, right, but they didn't lay off everybody. So at some point, it was like they could lay off this person or me, and they chose me, and they chose to keep that other person. So I was somehow inferior or not good enough. Or they had a list of the losers and the good people, and I was on this list, right? That's the thing our mind tells us. And it's really just another form of imposter syndrome. When you got the job, when you had the job, when you were succeeding and killing it and crushing it and all the other really violent sounding terms for doing well at the job, there's that little imposter syndrome whispering that like they'd made a terrible mistake, right? And like that they had hired you by accident and you were gonna reveal their mistake soon. And of course, that imposter syndrome loves this moment because now it can kind of creep out of the shadows and be like, you see. Just know that layoffs are arbitrary, or when they do have criteria, it's really arbitrary criteria, right? Or esoteric. And sometimes it just, it can't even be pinpointed at a particular area. So you just have to give yourself that space to know that it's not your fault. So there's the old thing about every time a door closes, another one opens. And yes, it's trite, but like most sayings, there's some grain of truth to it. And the fact is that if you're honest, there were probably some things about your previous job, the one that you lost and the one that is now in your mind, this perfect shining thing back when you were happy, the halcyon days of that job. There were probably some things that were headaches. There were things that you really didn't like. And there were times that you kind of like scrolled, some job posting websites but walking away from the job seemed like it was a little much. Well, the universe has now nudged you away from that job. So it's not good news, but do think of this like maybe this is a chance for you to reset your goals, your aspirations, all the things that you want from a job, and figure out, why the things in the last job that made you unhappy, and you can spend time thinking about that and move forward, really looking at this as a chance to kind of step up to another plane of employed happiness. Every time that I was laid off in my history, at the time it sucked, but years later, looking back, obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but also it a lot of the the bad pain stuff diminishes in your memory. So there's a bias there. But still, looking back, it ended up being for the best. It ended up leading to something better that made me happier. So in a realistic, sense, I'm not trying to pump you up, but just in a realistic sense, do consider that yeah, a door has closed, and that means some other doors are now open. So start looking for those doors. Another one, and this is a really important one, actually, for your mental health, I think. Don't deny yourself the little things. We all have little rituals that make us happy, and sometimes those little rituals cost money. For me, I really love going to the coffee shop. Yes, it's a Starbucks, and I'm sure some people will judge me, but I just love going there, getting my morning coffee, and it costs me like $3, way more than it should for a cup of coffee, but it makes me happy, and it starts my day out well. So some people, I think, when they get laid off, especially if it's their first layoff, they kind of go, well, I can't spend that $3 a day. I better start brewing coffee at home or whatever. If you have a lot of little habits that cost you money, maybe don't keep them all, but like identify the thing that really helps make your day better, and just don't deny that to yourself. Let yourself have that. There's a really good chance that by the time your life straightens back out and you've got your next gig, that the $3 a day that you spent won't have made the difference between you surviving and just being desolate and wandering the desert with nothing but rags, right? Like it probably won't be the deciding factor. So in the meantime, give yourself the space to have like a little bit of happiness in your life, right? Obviously, there are habits, most of them illegal, that cost way more than $3 a day. So if your little ritual involves something like that, then maybe question your priorities. Go over your finances. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not trying to tell you how to manage your finances. You should definitely not listen to me in that regard. But what I'm referencing is the fact that after a layoff, your mind starts to spiral. You start thinking about how much money is flowing out every day. It's like, oh my gosh, everything costs money. And if you're anything like me, suddenly it feels like everything in your life starts to break. All the stuff that has worked with no problem for years suddenly is breaking and needs to be repaired or replaced. And you're like, why did this happen now? Your mind, the catastrophizing in your mind, the dark parts of your mind that want to go to bad places, thrives off lack of information. So go over your finances, identify your fixed expenses, identify your discretionary expenses. Think about what other sources you might have. Maybe, hopefully, you got a severance package. Maybe you have some old stock grants that are sitting in an account. Like, don't cash them in yet, or go talk to a financial person about that. But what I mean is, once you have a clear accounting of like, this is how much I have, this is how much I'm spending fixed, and this is how much I'm spending discretionary, even if the end result of that picture is grim and you're like, ooh, this is not good, it's still better than the imagined catastrophe that your brain will come up with without. So I think a lot of people, they don't want to know, they don't want to open their bank's webpage and review their accounts because the anxiety of it. But in the end, it's better to know than not know, because not knowing will absolutely stress you out even more. Don't let yourself be in purgatory. A big part of the dizzying, weird, bad experience of being laid off is that you end up in this weird kind of purgatory. So when you had a job, you never had enough time, right? You were always like, I'm done with work, but I gotta go shopping, and I have to do laundry, and like, I have no time, and I just want to read this book or play this game or watch this movie, or do nothing, right? And you had no time. Now you have all the time in the world, but you have no job. And so rather than enjoy that feeling of having time, you stress about not having a job. So instead of like, now I have time, you sit there doom scrolling or whatever equivalent of doom scrolling there is, and you just fill up the time with anxiety and self-loathing. And as soon as you get a job again, you're going to immediately be like, oh, I miss having time. When I had all that time during the layoff, why didn't I use it better? And by use it better, I don't mean productively, but I mean just relax and enjoy the time. So even though you don't know what's coming next and what you're going to do from here, you still don't, there's no purpose. There's nothing served by existing in a weird state of purgatory. So just don't do it. Right? What I say is do the things that you have to do every morning to look for work. Scan the websites, update the resume, fill out the really annoying forms that they have you fill out and apply. Just do it, whatever you got to do. But then once you've done it, and some days that amounts to like 20 minutes of work. Some days it's 3 hours of work. Occasionally there's a day where there's actually nothing that you can do. Whenever you've done the good faith effort that you needed to do to look for your next job, then you're off the clock. Just accept that you've done everything you can do, and fretting and beating yourself up and being in purgatory is not going to change anything. So just let yourself relax. Read the book, watch the TV show, play the game, go for the long walk, whatever it is. Do nothing. But just don't let yourself be in purgatory. Learn new skills. Okay, this one's ubiquitous. Everyone says this, but it is worth saying because it is really true. There's a lot of skills as a professional that you need to update and keep abreast of that when you're in a full-time job, you just don't. Sometimes you don't. Like, if you're using a proprietary engine at work and then someone's like, oh man, UE5 is like really just hitting it on all cylinders. You should sit down and start learning that. And you're like, I know how to use an engine. So if I have to pick up UE5 for another job someday, I will, I will do it on the fly. I don't have to, I need to go meet my friends and get wasted or whatever. But the fact is, these days as a game dev, if you're in development, you probably should know UE5, and you will actually increase your potential job. There are many jobs out there where it's a requirement of the job that you already have a working knowledge of at least some part of UE5. It's a big engine, but whatever part you would use for your discipline. And you might say again, well, I have been using tools for 15 years, so obviously I can learn it. Like, right, but the next candidate behind you in line already knows it. They're going to hire that candidate. So, but it doesn't have to be unreal. There's a lot of skills out there that you should pick up. I used PowerPoint for years, over a decade, and knew it well enough to like make a decent PowerPoint. But over the last few months, I was like, I'd like to just kind of go next level with PowerPoint, so I don't need to rely on a graphic designer friend to make my PowerPoints look good. And YouTube is just a wealth of knowledge. For me, there's a YouTube channel called Slide Skills that I think's amazing. I've learned so much about PowerPoint. So just whatever skill it is, try to increase your skill level, or learn new ones. It is a really important use of your time. Finally, the last one, I promise, is to undertake a personal project. I have noticed something over the course of my career in two industries, in two creative fields, that I can't explain. I'm not a big believer in like karma or like psychic energy or the supernatural. No shade on those who do. It's just not for me. I don't really believe in it. But there's a weird correlation that happens that I can't explain. And it's this. When I have been laid off in the past, both in the film business and in games, and I did all the things I need to do to look for the next job or whatever, and then, chose not to live in purgatory, so watched the shows and played the games and whatever, but like basically also had this idea that like there's nothing else for me to do and just let it lie. Nothing would happen for a long time in terms of work. But as soon as I would undertake a project, as soon as I would decide, like I have always wanted to write this book or write this screenplay or design this little indie game or whatever, and I would start work on it. Well, back in the day, I was going to say the phone would ring, which is what used to happen before email. But now I guess it's an email or a LinkedIn message. But as soon as I sort of put it out into the universe that like I'm doing something and it's going to take months and I will not be able to do anything else, then the world would be like, oh, okay, well, here's a job. It's not quite that simple, not quite that one-to-one. But I have really experienced that. Many times, actually. So I would suggest just start a new project, whatever your discipline, whatever your field is. Not as a portfolio piece. Maybe your project would make a great portfolio piece someday, but don't look at it like that. Like, this is just the thing you want to do. Whatever it is, just start on it. So in conclusion, your mental health is really important in this time. There's lots of other stressors on you, and you're not going to be able to just shake off the stress of this, for sure. But you need to take the steps that you can take to avoid really falling into a pit of despair, right? So you have to make it through this time without beating yourself up and without making a bad situation much worse, which is so easy to do. Something bad has happened to you, yes. But you have the power to make it much worse or much less worse. And all of that is based on how you treat yourself. You will survive this. You will make it through. So take care of yourself in the meantime.